welcome to the Top Notch Legal Bulletin. Today we're going to discuss unfair contracts in business. In the past, small businesses have often been afraid to negotiate the terms of a contract which are delivered to them by a larger business. They're afraid that if they start trying to negotiate, they'll lose the deal. Well, that need be the case no longer, because we now have a new regime which says that larger businesses cannot impose unfair contract provisions against smaller businesses. There are some parameters around that which I'm not going to go into today, but I just want to give you a general overview of what this can mean for your business. What does unfair mean? Well, we don't really know too much about that yet, but we do have the first case which has come out of the Federal Court just very recently. The ACCC is targeting a number of industries, and the first case off the ranks was ACCC versus JJ Richards, which is a large waste management business. So the court held that 8 clauses in their contracts were unfair, and I'm going to discuss 3 which in my experience are the most common ones that my clients would be confronted with. So the first one was an automatic renewal clause. What this means is that you have often in commercial contracts a term which can roll over and over again unless the customer terminates or gives notice of termination before the end of the current term. The court said these clauses are unfair and they will not be enforced. The next one was an exclusivity clause. So JJ Richards had given itself the right to supply its customers exclusively, and while it was doing so, those customers were not allowed to go and get waste management services elsewhere, even if JJ Richards wasn't performing or was performing very badly. That won't be enforced any longer. And the third one is JJ Richards gave themselves the right to change the pricing unilaterally without negotiation. The court said that that wasn't on and that was void. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't have a clause in your contracts where you can increase prices, but you need to agree upon the mechanism about how pricing will be increased before you sign the contract. Now, the court made several orders, some of which included the fact that these clauses were declared void and therefore couldn't be enforced by the court, that JJ Richards had to send a copy of the court orders to every one of its customers who was under the same type of contract, and they had to publish a correction notice. Now, none of this is good for business. Certainly is very harmful to the image of your business. So what other industries is the ACCC looking at? Apparently advertising, telecommunications, retail leasing and franchising. With franchising in particular, they're going to be looking at the rights of franchisors to change the operations manuals midway through a term and to do that unilaterally. They're also going to be looking at liquidated damages, where franchisors can claim liquidated damages even though the loss is a lot less than the liquidated damages. ACCC is also going to be looking at the independent contracting industry, where you have a head contractor and a subcontractor. Often it's the case where the head contractor limits its liability, but there's not a similar limitation of the liability of the subcontractor. So what should you do if you're faced with a contract that you think has got unfair clauses in it? Well, you should object. No longer is it the scenario where you've got to take it or leave it. So object. If you're not sure if a clause is unfair or not, seek out the services of a good commercial lawyer. On the other hand, if you've got contracts and you're worried now that maybe some of your clauses are not fair, should you do something? Well, I think it would be very dangerous if you didn't, because the ACCC has got some real fertile ground here, and it looks like it's going to be quite aggressive in taking enforcement action where they're aware of unfair clauses being enforced against small business. So really that's a bit of a wrap up on the new unfair contracts regime. If you want help, of course we're always here to help you. At Top Notch Legal we say, wisdom is the principal thing. Take the advice that you've been given. That's all from us for now. Top Notch Legal, we take care of business.